Good evening, India. This is Amritanshu Vajpayee. I welcome you all to today's episode of Astronomy Delights titled Katherine Johnson, Alpha Woman in STEM. So I welcome you all on behalf of the entire team of collaborators, the Ignited Minds VIPNET Club, the Sky Amateur Astronomers VIPNET Club, and Women-led Science VIPNET Club. Welcome to today's talk. In this series of lectures that we are providing to you, or in the name of Astronomy Delights, we bring to you a very special lecture by the esteemed speaker for the day on Katherine Johnson, an alpha woman in STEM. So today, before we invite the esteemed speaker for the day as a representative of the collaborating agencies for the today's episode, I would just like to introduce to you about today's episode. Katherine Johnson, she was an American mathematician whose calculations of orbital mechanics as a NASA employee were critical to the success of the first and subsequent US crewed space flights. During her 35-year career at NASA and its predecessor, she earned a reputation for mastering complex manual calculations and helped pioneer the use of computers to perform the task. The space agency NASA noted her historical role as one of the first African American women to work as a NASA scientist. Johnson's work included calculating trajectories, launch windows, and emergency return paths for Project Mercury spaceflights, including those for astronauts Alan Shepard, the first American in space, and John Glenn, the first American in orbit, and the rendezvous paths for the Apollo lunar module and the command mode on flights to the moon. Her calculations were also essential to the beginning of the Space Shuttle program, and she worked on plans for a mission to Mars. Her social influence as a pioneer in space science and computing is demonstrated by the honors she received and her status as a role model for a life in science. Come on, let's celebrate the life, the work, and the achievement of this great personality on this today's platform of Astronomy Delight. So, without wasting any time, I would just introduce to you the speaker for the day, Miss Sweta Srivastava, a young and dynamic science communicator, an electrical and electronics engineer by career, an amateur astronomer by passion, and yes, the coordinator of the women-led Science VIPNET Club. So I welcome Ms. Sweta Srivastava on behalf of all the collaborating agencies to today's talk. With a digital round of applause, we turn the time over to you, Sweta. Thanks. Sweta, you may kindly begin your presentation, and we welcome you all to today's platform.
Today, we salute game changer Katherine Johnson, a highly skilled mathematician who has inspired many. She is everything to geek out and stand for. We honor such a legend and alpha woman. After a lifetime of reaching for the stars, she landed among them few months back. She spent decades as a hidden figure, breaking barriers behind the scenes. But by the end of her life, she had become a hero to millions. She was the history-making, barrier-breaking NASA mathematician whose calculations helped sync Project Apollo's lunar lander with the moon orbiting command and service module. Basically, it was her who helped successfully put men on the moon in 1969. Her historic contribution was depicted by Tara J.P. Henson in Hidden Figures. She died on 24th February 2020 at the age of 101. We are celebrating the amazing life and career of Johnson, the mathematician made famous by the film Hidden Figures. Katherine Johnson was a pioneering STEMinist who changed the course of history. She was one of the first black women to work at NASA in the 1960s, but she was labeled as a sub-professional. Throughout her career, Johnson broke down barriers for women of color in STEM. Her trajectories helped the US land a man on the moon, and astronauts like John Glenn trusted her calculations more than those from NASA's computers. She calculated precise trajectories for the initial NASA missions as well as for Apollo space missions by hand. We will never forget her. In 1958, after NASA was reformulated into NASA, the Space Task Group was formed with the goal of also getting a human into space. Johnson transitioned onto this project, co-authoring a report in 1960 titled Determination of Azimuth Angle at Burnout for Placing a Satellite over a Selected Earth Position, along with Ted Skopinski, in which they outlined the math required for orbital spaceflight and which the landing position of the spacecraft is specified. The first report from the Flight Research Division in which a female was given a credit. In 1961, she calculated the path for Freedom 7, the spacecraft that carried the first American astronaut Alan V. Shepard Jr. into space, and the following year she verified computer calculations for the Friendship 7 mission, in which John Glenn became the first US astronaut to orbit the planet. Johnson also completed the same calculations as well as backup navigational charts for the astronauts in case of electronic failure for Apollo 11, which sent 3 men to the moon. These ended up being instrumental during the Apollo 13 mission, the third lunar landing attempt, which took place in 1970. 2 days in, the mission was aborted when a secondary oxygen tank blew up, causing the main oxygen tank to fail. As oxygen began to run out, ground controllers in Houston were faced with a formidable task: how to get the astronauts home. Using Johnson's earlier research on backup parameters and navigational charts, Houston was able to compute the correct trajectories which enabled the crew to safely return to the Earth. She later worked on the Space Shuttle program, Earth Resources Satellite, and even contributed to plans for a Mars mission. After 33 years, she retired from NASA in 1986. Award-winning author Suzanne Slade and debut artist Veronica Miller Jamison tell the story of a NASA computer in this smartly written, charmingly illustrated biography, A Computer Called Katherine, which shows readers what can be accomplished if they push past limitations and reach for the stars. Counting the Stars is a beautifully illustrated picture book about her life. From award-winning author Lisa Klein Ransom and acclaimed illustrator Raoul Colon comes the sensitive, informative, and inspiring picture book biography of the remarkable mathematician Katherine Johnson, one of the NASA human computers whose work was critical to the first US space launch. Her mentor, Dr. Angie Turner King. While at West Virginia State, Johnson took classes with Angie Turner King. King taught at the Laboratory High School while she worked to become one of the first African American women to earn master's degree in maths and chemistry. She would go on to earn a PhD in math education in 1955. King taught Johnson geometry and encouraged her mathematical pursuits. 13 years older than Johnson, she modeled a life of possibility. Thus, we can say Mentors make a difference. Working at NASA, Katherine Johnson was part of a small group of African American women mathematicians who did crucial work at NASA to put Americans into space, into orbit, and eventually on the moon. It was the Johnson herself who calculated the precise trajectories that would allow Neil Armstrong and his team to land on the moon in 1969 and return to Earth safely. As a human computer, Johnson famously double-checked the numbers for the astronaut John Glenn's 1962 orbital mission. Glenn himself asked for Johnson to rerun the computer calculations prior to his launch. This came at a pivotal moment in the space race between the US and Soviet Union. Glenn became the first American to orbit the Earth. Her life story. While growing up in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, Katherine Johnson, her name was Coleman as a child, displayed an intense curiosity and an extraordinary knack with numbers. As a child prodigy, Katherine entered high school at 10 years old and graduated from college at the top of her class when she was just 18. In 1953, she joined a pool of women hired by NASA to work as human computers. After the death of her husband in 1956, she was recruited. After the death of her husband in 1956, life was an entirely new playing field for 34-year-old Katherine, because she already had a strong track record as a mathematician and physicist. She was recruited to join NASA in their space race against the Soviet Union. From there, her life changed forever. As a NASA employee, Johnson made herself known. Many of NASA's missions would not have happened so effectively without her brilliance, as she was responsible for calculating the trajectories for countless trips. On 24th November, President Obama bestowed the Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor, to Katherine Johnson, who exhibited exceptional technical leadership calculating and verifying trajectories. Until now, Johnson's critical technical contributions to the space race were largely unknown to the world. The contributions and leadership of countless scientific and technical women and people of color who have been tremendous innovators have been left out of American history books, unfortunately. Other recent awards include the Distinguished West Virginian Award from Governor Earl Ray Tomblin, having a bench dedicated to her at the Air and Space Museum in Hampton, VA, and being honored as one of 8 in the Virginia Women in History Traveling exhibit sponsored by the State Library of Virginia in Richmond. In 1997, Johnson was recognized as one of 24 black inventors and scientists at the Afro-American Historical and Cultural Museum in Philadelphia. She was featured in the U.S. Office of Education documentary, Practical Uses of Mathematics, as well as in D.C. Heath's 5th grade science textbook. She was also included in the U.S. Department of Energy's Black Contributors to Science and Energy Technology, and is featured in Black Women Scientists in the United States by Winnie Warren. Hidden Figures is a 2016 American biographical drama film directed by Theodore Melfi and written by Melfi and Alison Schroeder. It is loosely based on the non-fiction book of the same name by Margot Lee Shetterly about black female mathematicians Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, and Mary Jackson, who worked at the NASA during the space race. I have rarely watched a film that has moved me as much as The Hidden Figures did when I first saw it, and I have seen it at least twice since when I have led discussions about the significance of the film. In telling Johnson and his colleagues' stories, the film shed light not only on advances in technology but also the status of black people in society and the role of women in the workplace and in science. If you haven't seen the movie yet, I can't recommend it highly enough. This moment took place backstage at Oscars. During the show, there was a buzz backstage, and when Katherine Johnson appeared, the entire area was cloaked a mix of awe and excitement. The actresses Janelle Monáe, Taraji P. Henson, and Octavia Spencer honored NASA physicist Katherine Johnson at the 89th Oscars in 2017. On May 5, 2016, a new 40,000 square feet building was named the Katherine G. Johnson Computational Research Facility and formally dedicated at the agency's Langley Research Center in Hampton, Virginia. The facility officially opened its door on September 22, 2017. Johnson attended this event, which also marked the 55th anniversary of astronaut Alan Shepard's historic rocket launch and splashdown, a success Johnson had achieved. During the event, Johnson also received a Silver Snoopy Award, often called the Astronaut's Award. NASA stated it is given to those who have made outstanding contributions to flight safety and mission success. Artemis Mission by 2024, Katherine Johnson blazed trails not just as a black female mathematician during the Cold War, but by mapping literal paths through outer space. Her math continues to carve out new paths for spacecraft navigating our solar system, as NASA engineers use evolved versions of her equations that will execute missions to the moon and beyond. At NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston, Jenny Gruber works on the Artemis Mission, which plans to send the first women and the next man to the moon in the 2024. Gruber plans trajectories for Artemis just as Johnson did for the first lunar landing. Gruber's basic task remains essentially the same as Johnson's was in 1962, to calculate the speed, acceleration, and direction required to lob a spacecraft of a certain size and fuel capacity to hit a moving target without a lot of room for extra maneuvering. She participated in many panels and conferences, including the NASA Trailblazers and Legends STEM conference in Cape Canaveral, Florida in 2010. She often spoke to students about her own extraordinary career and encouraged all of them to pursue STEM careers. Johnson told them, "We will always have STEM with us, something some things will drop out of the public eye and will go away, but there will always be science, engineering and technology. And there will always be mathematics. Everything is physics and maths. Johnson served on different panels and would hear from students who told her they decided to go into a STEM career after listening to her talk. She kept in touch with NASA employees and would call on them when needed to help drive home the importance of STEM to audiences. She was an inspiration for women. Girls are capable of doing everything men are capable of doing. Sometimes they have more imagination than men. We are at a place in time where we must inspire the next generation of women to explore science. It is critical to the future of our society to not only encourage women, but specifically women of color to drive the next phase of space exploration. She started as one of the women who worked on problems assigned from the engineers in what was then the guidance and control branch. As Johnson worked on the problems, she would ask questions. She didn't want to just do the work. She wanted to know the hows and the whys and then the why nots. None of the other women had ever asked questions before, but by asking questions, Johnson began to stand out. She was told that women didn't participate in the briefings or attend meetings. She asked if there were a law against it. The answer, of course, was no, and so Johnson began to attend briefings. NASA was just beginning its work on space. Space itself may be perceived as a series of plane surfaces, and as Johnson became known of her training in geometry, she began to work with the team more and more. Eventually, she became known as a leader, and the men increasingly relied on her. She remembered quite clearly her experience at the time. The women did what they were told to do, she explained. They didn't ask questions or take the task any further. I asked questions. I wanted to know why. They got used to me asking questions and being the only women there. It is an honor to be a part of telling her story and feeling the impact that her legacy has had on future women in STEM. She has fought racism. I don't have a feeling of inferiority, never had. I am as good as anybody but no better. Racism tried to prevent her from pursuing her dreams, but she didn't let it stop her from exercising her genius. Today, we honor the real story of the black genius who put men on the moon. We can say that not all heroes wear caps. Some heroes wear skirts and glasses to fight racism and sexism, chart paths to the stars, and bring imperiled astronauts safely home from the moon. Black girl is out of this world, literally. The 300 block of E Street Southwest in front of the NASA headquarters building was designated as Hidden Figures Way to honor Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson, and all women who have dedicated their lives to honorably serving their country, advancing equality, and contributing to the space program of the United States. Visitors to NASA's headquarters in Washington, D.C. will forevermore be reminded of the African American women who were essential to the success of early space flight. BBC included her in its list of the 100 most influential women worldwide. She quotes there, If you want to know, ask a question. There is no such thing as a dumb question. It's dumb if you don't ask it. Her mathematics is an important legacy, but so is the legacy of her recent celebrity. For too long, Johnson's contributions to the space program were unknown by the public. The story of America's success in the space race has largely been told through the stories of the men at NASA. But Johnson was there, and it's important to remember that. National Space Day dedicates the first Friday in May. That was on 1st May this year, to the extraordinary achievements, benefits, and opportunities in the exploration and use of space. The goal of the observation is to promote math, science, technology, and engineering education in young people. In 1997, Lockheed Martin Corporation created National Space Day as a one-day event. In 2001, due to its extreme popularity, former astronaut and Senator John Glenn expanded Space Day to International Space Day. In appreciation of National Space Day, it goes without saying that we to show our love of the late innovator Katherine Johnson. Thank you for paving the way for girls and women across the globe. Now, anyone can virtually meet women or who have blazed trails in space and related science fields in a new app released through a collaboration between the Smithsonian and NASA. The new project, Reach Across the Stars, a universe of explorers, is a free augmented reality AR app that can be used on most AR compatible tablets and smartphones. This app will allow users to explore the universe and unlock the often overlooked stories of women and their contributions to space exploration and science. Women are featured in short stories 1 to 2 minutes and longer journeys 5 to 8 minutes. Some of the women in the stories of this new app include computer scientist Grace Hopper, astronomer Nancy Roman, mathematician Katherine Johnson, physicist and chemist Marie Curie, and astronauts Mae Jemison and Sally Ride. The app currently features over 35 women, but it will also include serialized content that will deliver new stories and journeys in the coming months. Users can get notifications to update the app when new material is available. So with this, thank you everyone for joining our virtual meetup. Today, we learned the story behind the hidden figures, and with this, it is an inspiring end for this beautiful Wednesday. I will end my presentation here by saying few sentences to you all. Break barriers, save the planet, be a superhero, help support underrepresented youth explore and connect to STEM. Thank you.
So, thanks a lot, Sweta, for such an enthralling talk and throwing such important light on the life and the works of Katherine Johnson. And I hope that the entire diaspora audience who are with us today on this all important moment, they would have really enjoyed all the moments of the life of Katherine Johnson. You have made all the achievements of the great lady the Alpha Woman in STEM, the aptly titled talk of the day, really alive for all of us. As I can see in the chat box, there have been a few questions that have been posed, but they require, I suppose, a detailed answer. So, Shweta, we shall be posting these questions to your inbox and you can reply directly to all the audience the relevant queries. And I assure the entire audience which is present here on behalf of all the organizers that yes, your queries will really be taken up very soon by the speaker of the day and you shall get all the relevant replies in your respective inboxes. So now I take this opportunity on behalf of all the collaborating agencies, the Ignited Minds VIPNET Club, the Sky Amateur Astronomers VIPNET Club, and Women-led Science Club, and also not to forget Sky Foundation and the global partner EduStem initiative to specially thank the speaker for the day, Ms. Sweta Srivastava, for giving us her very important time from the very busy schedule of hers and sparing a few important minutes to throw light on this all important personality of Katherine Johnson. Thanks a lot, Sweta. We thank you from the bottom and the core of our heart. Special word of thanks also to the audience. Yes, the real strength of Sky Foundation and all the collaborators, because without your presence, this program would not have been as a grand success as it is of late of now. So we extend a very warm thanks, heartfelt thanks to all the esteemed audience on behalf of all the collaborators. So we shall be back tomorrow in this ongoing series of Astronomy Delights where we are celebrating the Heritage Astronomy Week with a new lecture on the same platform on the same time from another distinguished guest of ours. So kindly stay tuned with us for further updates. We shall be uploading the recording of this lecture in due course of time on our official platform. I request all the esteemed audience to kindly fill the feedback form that is being provided in the chat box simultaneously with the talk to kindly receive the e-certificates on behalf of all the collaborating agencies for today's talk. So kindly stay tuned with us. Wish you a very happy and a safe stay at home amidst the corona pandemic. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay home, and stay tuned to Sky for further updates. Thank you.